The moment Mason Verrill exited the shuttle, the oppressive heat assaulted him. Not just any heat, but the infamous Craythorne 9 heat, a cloying, bone-deep presence that seemed to hiss. "You'll perish here, drenched and utterly lost." He adjusted his weathered flight jacket, the zipper a casualty since Verdon's conflict, and squinted at the ochre sky as if demanding recompense. The docking bay bustled with miners, mercenaries, and vendors peddling greasy protein bars. A trio of androids debated intensely over a game of thermionic chess. A drone, resembling a bird, zipped by, depositing a flyer on Mason's face. He peeled it off and proclaimed, "Craythorne's Blood Knuckle Tournament, 10,000 credits, eternal glory, and a bottle of aged Spillian brandy for the victor." He hesitated, then grumbled, "I've risked my life for far less." His ship, a battered and weary vessel. The star cruiser, Shrike of Remorse, found itself impounded, strangled by docking tariffs he couldn't manage, a consequence of a trivial autopay glitch. Mason had operated under the naive assumption that dismissing alerts equaled outright denial. His onboard AI, Trudy, enlightened him of his folly with a snide shutdown, her sign-off reading, "Sincerely, an AI with a shred more accountability, a quality Pitwy material." Mason crumpled the leaflet, tucked it inside his coat, and wandered in the direction of the registration kiosk. Strategizing was never his forte. Plotting ahead felt as valuable as sandals in zero-G, useless. Theory, but mostly just how the booth was manned by a lean, ancient cyborg. A single luminous eye, and a voice like a gravelly rockslide strained through a kazoo. "Name?" it rasped. "Mason Verrill." "Fighting name?" He hesitated. Mason Verrill." The cyborg's gaze intensified. "You want fans screaming your tax ID while you're dying in the arena? Fine. Call me the Fist Comet." A drawn-out silence followed. The cyborg entered it. No words exchanged. The screen lit up. "Welcome, Fist Comet. Next match, 43 minutes. 40 minutes elapsed. Mason found himself in a cramped, filthy locker room. At a minimum 7 other combatants, 2 humans, a reptilian cyborg with augmented metal limbs, a multi-eyed furred creature with a maw like a shredder, and a guy in a t-shirt that boasted, "I beat your mom at Grav." Mason shadowboxed the air. It remained aloof. His knuckles still throbbed from a Zenthra Prime saloon brawl, where he'd lost a tooth, gained a comrade, and wagered the comrade's cybernetic leg on a dice game, which he tragically lost. The bell chimed. Mason ambled into the arena under intense UV lights. The crowd roared and bayed from the soaring stands. Hardscrabble miners waving their tools, gamblers flaunting worthless chips, a crustacean-clad character brandishing "claw bet" signs. He entered the arena opposite a towering 7-foot synthoid, Gorlak 7, with obsidian skin and cargo crate fists. A booming voice announced, "In this corner, hopelessly outmatched, the enigmatic, the marvelous, the slightly insane Fist Comet." Boos erupted. A can flew. Mason caught it, grimaced, and retorted, "Regret and failure incarnate." "Parenting," he grumbled. The bell's chime pierced the air. Gorlak surged forward, a lightning-fast symphony of steel and power. Mason evaded the initial onslaught, a nimble dance of desperation, and landed a blow that might as well have connected with an unyielding fortress of Durasteel. The synthoid remained unfazed. Mason redoubled his efforts, targeting vulnerable junctures, seeking a chink in the machine's armor. Gorlax retaliated with a devastating strike that propelled him across the ring with brutal force. He collided with the barrier, a sickening crunch echoing through the arena. Stars danced before his eyes. The metallic tang of blood filled his mouth. A female voice, tinged with morbid curiosity, observed, "His valor knows no bounds, or perhaps his sanity has deserted him." He struggled to regain his footing. Wiped crimson from his lip, he flipped Gorlax off, igniting the crowd. Mason grinned, teeth stained crimson. Gorlax lunged, but Mason sidestepped, hammering an elbow into the synthoid's flank. A fleeting spark erupted. Gorlax faltered, rebooting. Mason seized his chance, not at the brute, but at her, amidst the frenzy. She sat serenely, a vision of poise, statuesque, raven-haired, her eyes twin stars imprisoned in glacial depths, and ears, sculpted obsidian crescents. Virene, unmistakably. Virene recognized their ilk, typically imposing trade embargoes or delivering ultimatums, never witnessing gladiatorial contests, especially not regarding him with such intensity. Mason momentarily faltered, absorbing a blow to the abdomen, collapsing like a compilation of poor life choices. The arena spun. He crashed onto the ground. An enumeration echoed. 5! He writhed, choked, and hoisted himself upright. 7! He lurched onward. 8! He unleashed a final, desperate strike blindly, connecting with Gorlax's neck joint. A sickening crack reverberated. Sparks erupted. Gorlax's physique seized, legs convulsing, then toppled like a discarded appliance. Silence descended. Then the crowd exploded. Mason barely noticed. His ears were ringing. His vision swam, and blood trickled down his temple. He raised his arms nonetheless. The roar invigorated him like a jolt of pure energy. As he staggered from the ring, someone thrust a towel into his hands. Another offered a can of Spillian brandy, and the Varan woman emerged from the throng. He blinked, but her gaze remained unwavering. "I desire you as my husband," she declared, serene as starlight. Mason chuckled. "Well, that's a novel approach." She inclined her head. "It is not a line." "Then I believe you're honor-bound to buy me dinner before everything? Is that the courtship dance of your people?" "It's the cornerstone of our culture," she mused. Intrigued, she departed abruptly. Stunned and reeling from the bizarre encounter, Mason stood there, metaphorically wounded in 3 places. He weakly questioned the towel attendant. Did that actually transpire? The attendant offered a deliberate nod. "Are you destined to wed her?" "I'm questioning my own reality," he mumbled, before succumbing to unconsciousness. His dreamscape then filled with celestial eyes, pointed ears, and the peculiar, strangely enticing echo of a marriage proposal amidst a small spill. Of his own blood, Mason stirred, assailed by the harsh scent of antiseptic, singed circuits, and a dubious, soup-like aroma. The ceiling's dim, pulsating lights and a nearby machine's erratic beeps mimicked a jazz drummer's clumsy solo. Attempting to rise brought instant regret. His ribs emitted a grating complaint, and his head throbbed as if it were a sledgehammer training target. "So, you're among the living?" a voice drawled, crisp and laced with sarcasm. He turned. Eager to behold her once more, the ethereal woman with the augmented ears stood at the cot's edge, arms clasped behind her back. Her polished synth-fiber tunic shimmered subtly with each graceful motion. Her raven braids were immaculate, and her gaze bore into him with the calculated intensity of a hacker dissecting a quantum firewall breach. A cantaloupe-sized drone lingered behind her. its gentle blinking undoubtedly scanning him. Mason offered a wry smile. "Tell me I'm not losing my grip on reality, or at the very least assure me you're not here to liberate my vital organs." She inclined her head, intrigued. "Require both kidneys. That is hardly a comforting follow-up question. I have confirmed your organ reserves. They are presently sufficient." "Well, thank you for the confirmation. That's strangely reassuring," he groaned, swinging his legs off the cot. "So what's the procedure? Here, are you going to claim the marriage proposal was a heat stroke? Fueled jest number?" I was serious. He paused, truly. "I have analyzed your culture's partnership rituals. They are convoluted, irrational, and remarkably unproductive, yet undeniably captivating." She stepped. "Upon intensely reviewing your combat footage, I observed that your instincts were fundamentally flawed. Your technique fell short of acceptable standards, and your strategic approach was wholly absent. Yet remarkably, you emerged victorious. I prefer to conceptualize it as chaos-driven strategy, a notion that evidently pleased her. Such sheer unpredictability is scarce, and I must admit, I find it exhilarating." Mason narrowed his eyes. "All right. But one doesn't simply approach an individual fresh from a near-fatal encounter with a robotic adversary and propose marriage. In my culture, forthrightness trumps subtle dating games involving frivolous dancing and unwanted singing engagements." "I suppose that is a reasonable point," he conceded. "Where I'm from, people embark on dates, initially investing time, indulging in delectable, albeit greasy cuisine, debating the merits of cinematic conclusions, unearthing a shared loathing for one another's musical preferences, a genuine bonding experiment." She concurred. He glanced around, questioning, "Hold on, where exactly are we?" "A secluded medbay, a neutral sanctuary. Tournament authorities rent these out for profound rejuvenation," she explained, motioning towards a sign overhead. "Now accepting limbs as payment," translated in 6 languages. "I covered your medical costs. You didn't surrender a limb for it, did you?" "Merely a spleen. And not mine," Mason chuckled, a wince betraying the lingering pain, his body a stark reminder of its fragility. "So, let's cut to the chase. Elra Vaughn, envoy-class negotiator of the Vine Ascendancy under diplomatic pretense, observing Krathor's economic underpinnings. Huh." Mason surveyed the dilapidated medbay, its walls crumbling, the air thick with the aroma of decay and stale confectionery, and remarked, "So, this is the pinnacle of Krathor's infrastructure. Fascinating. It's a petri dish, if you ask me. Though the gym sock comparison is novel. I admit he jested, a smirk dancing on his lips. Elijah Vaughn. All right, I'm Mason Varel, ex-trash barge tech, now a shipless cargo hustler and reluctant fist comet. Your resume? Let's just say it's uniquely inconsistent. Translation: you've been spectacularly terminated a few times. I suggest a trial run, a test of compatibility. We tackle missions, share grub, maybe even outlive a few assassination bids. Things just got interesting. You've already ruffled feathers. The chrome shivs want payback because, well, I may have chucked a bottle at one of their comrades after you hurled a bottle, mocked, and flamboyantly insulted his Hoverix design in 3 languages. Mason massaged his temples. I desperately need coffee, painkillers, or perhaps a replacement spine. Elra delved into a pouch, producing a vial. This is nanostem. It'll diminish the pain and mend minor fractures. Is it safe? It's Verine grade, meticulously engineered for diplomatic crises and moderate conflicts. He consumed it. It tasted of fizzy aluminum. Almost instantly, his headache softened, and his ribs ceased their sickening crackling with each breath. "Okay," he mumbled. "That's tolerable. Either a wonder drug or I've somehow wedded an extraterrestrial healer. I am no dispenser of pills," she stated. He scrutinized her intensely. Ears notwithstanding, she appeared terrestrial, or nearly so. Her gaze held an age-old wisdom and composure, as though her every utterance had been rigorously evaluated for impact and ramifications. Yet, beneath it all, lay inquisitiveness, possibly even mirth. "I still fail to comprehend your motivations," he pressed. She approached the exit, "because I am adept at identifying deviations, elements that defy established norms. And you, Mason Varel, are a significant aberration," he pursued. "Favoring one leg, many dismiss me as a calamity. Anomalies and messes blur, distinguished only by complexity." They left the medbay, stepping into a corridor thick with ozone and lingering remorse. Beyond, Craythorne's undercity throbbed with activity. Drones zipped, vendors hawked wares, and a child pursued a cyber squirrel squawking binary insults. A brawl ignited nearby over a misconstrued glance. Mason surveyed the scene. Direction? A nearby hub fosters camaraderie. Is a ubiquitous locale offering crisp fried fare, potent potables, and raw emotional exchange. A tavern, perhaps? Precisely. I'm game. They advanced in tandem, his gait labored, hers effortless. The dichotomy tickled Mason. He rubbed his nape, casting a sideways glance. Absolutely no designs on vivisecting me? Unequivocally, none. Very well. Let's indulge in moderate intoxication and articulate our sentiments like emotionally immature grown-ups. Deal. They rounded the bend, disappearing into Crathorn 9's twilight. The drone, hovering behind, continued its silent surveillance. Deep within a secluded government server, shielded from the pandemonium, a line of code flickered. Subject VN commencing integration protocol with human outlier. Results pending. The establishment, christened the Leaking Star, lived up to its moniker. An azure viscous fluid dripped incessantly from the ceiling, a defect nonchalantly ignored by patrons who had mastered the art of evasive seating. Mason selected the seemingly least damp stool, though it still emitted a disconcerting squelch as he settled in. Exceedingly challenging to misinterpret, she mirrored every move with flawless grace, her face an enigma. The bar's inhabitants, miners, mercenaries, even a few off-duty bounty hunter droids, gave her a respectful berth. Vines weren't unusual in this sector, but she wasn't someone you'd casually share drinks with, especially after entering a bar with a bruised human in tow, looking like misplaced baggage. The bartender, a necklace three-eyed humanoid, croaked in a voice akin to a glitched translator. "What's your pleasure?" Bare-knuckle Mason leaned on the bar. "Counter whatever. Wouldn't erode my stomach lining. One for my, He hesitated. Partner felt bland. Fiancé, premature. He went with E for Elira. "She abstains," he stated. "I do not," Elira retorted, eyes locked forward. "I merely hypothesize that fermented hydrocarbons enhance interhuman connection rituals." "That's the attitude," he chuckled. "Or attitudes, or both. Bartender, 2 house blends, and something fried and vaguely palatable." The drinks materialized. Ceramic mugs, sculpted into agonized visages, exhaled tendrils of vapor. Mason was certain a minuscule flame flickered on the surface, a mischievous sprite ablaze. He sampled the brew. It assaulted his palate like moonshine, laced with battery acid and unbridled optimism. Eller mirrored his action, her countenance impassive. "Thoughts?" Mason queried. "It's scalding, acrid, untamed, like me," he declared. She pondered. The comparison is disquieting. Next arrived the sustenance, crispy spirals of, Mason desperately hoped, lab-grown tentacle fragments alongside a complimentary dipping sauce. Shimmered softly beneath the dim bar lights, he gestured, "Ladies first." She cautiously prodded a coil with her fork, raised it, and took a delicate bite. Her ears perked subtly. Tolerable, slightly radioactive. That's the craythorn allure. He snatched one, plunged it into the sauce, and devoured it. A taste of sorrow and spice. They dined in comfortable quietude, the bar's ambient clamor ebbing and flowing like a seasick drunk tide. Somewhere a brawl erupted between a patron and a chair. The chair triumphed, observed it all with avid intrigue. The ambiance is turbulent, yet its people exhibit an unspoken code of conduct. We dub it tipsy camaraderie. Essentially, it's hands off another's brew, never challenge a cyborg to armed combat, and dodge any guaranteed star crystal offers. Those things are volatile, like craythorn gamblers. Elira offered the faintest of smiles, nearly invisible, but Mason spotted it. He advanced. "So, this bonding trial. Parameters? Objectives? Earn prestige for surviving your company. I've architected a 12-step evolution," she revealed, projecting a holographic roster on her wrist. Step 1, mutual engagement. Step 2, interactive assessment. Step 3, vulnerability sharing. Mason interjected, "Hold on, Data. Can we jump to bickering about sweets and zoning out to trash TV?" That's stage 7, household harmony test. I champion fast forwarding. Time's fleeting, particularly with those chrome-plated killers on our tail. She crossed her arms. I offer an alternative, a direct strike. Me. Tomorrow we're infiltrating a trade summit as a close-knit team. Expect VIPs, heavy security, and regrettably, dancing. Wait, did someone mention dancing? Dancing constitutes Phase 4, coordinated movement aimed at fostering emotional harmony. My last attempt at emotional synchronization resulted in a tearful 7th grade incident during a school production. I've scrutinized your archaic media. I've witnessed dirty dancing. I suspect you're vastly diminishing your inherent capabilities. I, too, endured dirty dancing. I promptly exited. Too many garments. You're evading the matter. I'm experiencing acute anxiety. Elra Mason, must I don a suit? A streamlined exoformal unitard would be far more suitable. Oh, wonderful. I'll resemble a shimmering sausage. She cocked her head. You'll be presentable. Flattery? How audacious. I'm evolving. He took another deliberate sip. Fine. We'll attend. We'll network. We'll endure this charade. But if I'm impaled by some dignitary again, I'm holding you accountable. You were merely grazed during those vital diplomatic discussions. It was more of a vigorous debate, sparked by a slight misinterpretation of their homeworld's name. Apparently, adding an extra syllable. Syllable transformed it from perpetual sunrise to a festering wound. Linguistic acuity matters, and so does dodging debris. As the evening deepened, they conversed, imbibed, and observed the unfolding pandemonium. Mason recounted his smuggling escapade involving counterfeit pleasure cruisers that inadvertently sparked a small cult. She responded with a narrative about mediating interplanetary concord by orchestrating a faux solar eclipse via orbital reflectors. "You jest?" he questioned, bewildered. "I'm invariably earnest. Therein lies the quandary. We're initiating the Bond experiment, necessitating refinement of your sarcasm. I can procure advanced sarcasm emulators. Negative, that seems like an install destined for remorse. I harbor regrets regarding prior installations. One induced exclusive sea shanty parlance for a week. Agreed, that's unacceptable." She smiled faintly as they prepared to depart. Mason faltered briefly. I secured his arm, offering a steadying grasp both resolute and tender. "You're surprisingly adept at this performance," he remarked. "This isn't an act." They proceeded into the crayon night's neon haze, stars veiled by heavy smog, reactor fumes glowing faintly ahead. A drone descended, beeping twice. Eli checked the update. Chrome Shiv Squad deployed, medium firepower, minor explosives. Mason sighed. "Do they ever just send flowers? Remember that bouquet I intercepted? Wired to blow. How charming." "We should prep for battle," he urged. "Or a dance-off." Eli grinned. "Ideally both, in that exact order." The trade summit was held inside a rotating spire, lazily circling Crawthorne's upper atmosphere, anchored. Tethered to the planet by gravity tethers and some wildly optimistic insurance, the interior was a dazzling vista of polished alloy, floating platforms, and clear walkways, showcasing the mesmerizing toxic cloudscape far below. Mason gripped a questionable railing during the ascent. "Remind me," he murmured, as the lift approached the central atrium. "Why we're masquerading as a couple at this event? A bizarre fusion of arms market and political charade." Elra stood beside him, clad in a sleeveless violet uniform that shimmered as if infused with dark matter, her ears twitching subtly beneath a metallic circlet radiating faint diplomatic clearance codes. Because Venecy demands demonstrable cultural adaptability, rare mixed-pair alliances signal amplified strength and intriguing unpredictability, he tweaked the collar of his rented outfit, uncomfortably tight across the shoulders, suspiciously shiny, and potentially disastrous safety measures. Fueling absurd behaviors. Nothing shouts resilience like owning up to scavenging. Fallen noodles, sometimes deliberate. Moderation is the name of the game tonight, measured aggression. Contained wit, no indecent exposure in public. Was that really necessary for the invitees? A few unfortunate events. Yes, an ambassador and a malfunctioning fabric enhancer. The lift chimed, revealing an immense chamber filled with extraterrestrial dignitaries, hovering interpretation devices, and catering staff using anti-gravity belts to gracefully flit from gathering to gathering. Like exceptionally courteous orbiting bodies, a A-string quartet of 4 indistinguishable clones performed a piece that tastefully blended classical jazz with glitch hop. Mason peered. "This is far more sophisticated than I anticipated." The Vine doesn't engage in rudimentary networking. We prefer significant displays. A stout reptilian figure in formal attire waddled over, presenting a subtly smoking cocktail. "Envoy Vaughn and her consort?" It rasped, extending a clawed hand. "Consort?" Mason muttered. Eliar offered a poised smile. "Ambassador, this is Mason Verrill, my bonded prospect." Mason grinned, the kind that precedes impending chaos. Is your drink supposed to be flambéed? Nock glanced down. Affirmative. Soon my tongue joins the inferno, if prepared correctly. Fascinating. I'll just be over here, abstaining from fiery libations. They circulated, or rather mingled with Mason orbiting her, dodging dignitaries and glowing spills. A plate of dubious delicacies appeared, aesthetically pleasing or lethally toxic. He sampled one. A tingling numbness spread. Intriguing, he mused, impressed. You're acclimating impressively, she observed. The numbing in your left eye is fleeting, a telltale sign of successful molecular integration. That perfectly encapsulates my past romance, truthfully. A duo of distinguished figures then approached, clad in immaculate robes and radiating calculated suspicion. One possessed cybernetic eye enhancements, meticulously tracking Mason with an unsettling, deliberate pace. Envoy Vaughn, the taller individual stated, we've received intelligence suggesting your human associate participated in an unauthorized altercation within Sector B12. I'd call that a standard Tuesday, Mason quipped. Ilera interjected seamlessly. He was safeguarding community stability against recognized agitators. A beverage container was, regrettably, a contributing factor. Mason thoughtfully provided a chair, and perhaps even a parrot. Your approaches are unconventional, the dignitary stated, evidently unmoved. Mason grinned. Appreciated. The other dignitary hesitated, then inquired of Elra, if this experimental bond collapses, will he be decommissioned? I prefer my unique assets preserved, Elra responded calmly. They often yield unexpected results. The pair proceeded, murmuring in tones audible only to canines and officials. Mason sighed. Are all your political adversaries so jovial? Those were collaborators. Good heavens! The string quartet shifted to a more vibrant atmosphere. The lights softened, and a voice echoed, declaring, commencing Unity waltz sequence, couples, to the floor. Oh no, Mason muttered. Yes, Elra responded. A platform ascended in the room's heart as couples glided towards it, some more skillfully than others. Mason stalled. I'm not a dancer, he confessed. You are now, Elra retorted, seizing his hand. Is this truly essential? Mandatory. Phase 4. The previous instance I engaged in public dancing. Someone suffered a bruised ego. Elra tugged him onward. Relax. Trust my guidance. As they graced the platform, a symphony of orchestral harmony intertwined with a synthetic heartbeat surged. Mason positioned his hands as Elra directed, maneuvering as if defying imminent gravitational collapse. Overthinking, she observed. Thinking's my sole edge, he countered. Inaccurate, she retorted. Your instincts are your arsenal. Unleash them. My forte lies in evasion, he quipped. Then dance as if eluding mortality. He mirrored the sentiment. They spiraled and swayed, his steps faltering initially, yet progressively embracing the rhythm, largely attributed to Elra's unerring precision. Enveloping them, couples twirled with unhurried grace. Mason's a touch of audacious elegance masked a desperate flight from humiliation. Why are all eyes on us? He questioned nervously. Because they anticipate our downfall. Fantastic. I revel in spectacular failures before esteemed guests. But you're not faltering, she countered gently. He paused, surprised. I'm not. You're adapting. You're delightfully unpredictable. You smile where others would cower. Well, shrinking has never been my forte. I find it advantageous. They danced, perhaps not flawlessly, but with an infectious zeal that bordered on bravery. As the music softened, Eller whispered, her breath ghosting across Mason's face. "You are truly unique." "Good?" "I'm still pondering." "No rush," he offered. I'm equally undecided. As they departed, applause, polite yet subtly impressed, trailed them. Mason pressed onward, ignoring his aching feet and protesting knees. Elra's smile was his victory. Suddenly the lights dipped prematurely. The music ceased abruptly. A warning tone blared. Era froze. Emergency protocol initiated. Some undisclosed crisis loomed. Above, a shimmering fissure splintered across the spire's dome. Spiderwebbing patterns fractured the glass, like stress made visible. Mason's gaze shot skyward. "Tell me that's theatrics," he pleaded. A voice from the crowd shattered his hopes. "It's not!" Shimmering cloaks dissolved as figures revealed their true intent, weapons materializing from hidden compartments. The closest one aimed a pulse lance at Elira, bellowing, "For the Ascendant Purge!" Acting purely on primal instinct, Mason launched himself forward. No strategy, no deliberation, just unwavering survival. "Phase 5!" he yelled, intercepting the attacker. Elira's voice, already drawing her weapon, echoed. "Phase 5, shared conflict," beamed from the floor, immobilizing the aspiring assassin. Finally, something I excel at. The security drones were woefully tardy, arriving not at the dramatic climax, but during the cleanup. Consequently, Mason and Elra resorted to old-school tactics: raw power, makeshift weapons, and a blatant disregard for the dance floor's structural soundness. The cloaked assailants dispersed as the initial plasma bolts tore through the atmosphere. Incinerating a hapless buffet table, a shrimp-like alien shrieked as its carapace shattered. Mason dove behind a pillar, gasping. "Just a heads up," he yelled. "I'm technically unarmed here." Aya crouched next to him, her sidearm spitting electric blue fire. "Your fists totally count under Vine military regulations. You've already established that, pal." "Fantastic. Legally, I'm an armory, and you're a slightly volatile kinetic risk. Technically accurate." A plasma blast scorched the pillar next to them. Mason recoiled. "Close call. 3 threats persist. 2 withdrawing, 1 maneuvering right. Shall I engage the flanker? Got a strategy?" I envisioned vocalizing loudly and hoping for a misstep. "Reasonable. Proceed." Mason surged forward, leaping over an overturned banquet table, narrowly avoiding a face-first plunge into a ludicrously placed fountain. The flanking assailant, a towering chrome humanoid, was upon them. Half mask and an elongated energy blade charged at him, with a bellow resembling a modem gargling gravel. Mason ducked deftly, sliding on his knees, and seized the attacker's ankle mid-stride with surprising agility. He yanked forcefully, trusting gravity to finish the job. The attacker collapsed in a chaotic mess, landing with a metallic thud. "I dubbed that a tactical ankle embrace," Mason quipped, scrambling up and sending the blade skittering across the atrium. Elira had already neutralized another assailant against a pillar. Column, her sidearm precisely targeted the vulnerable joint behind the enemy's shoulder plate. "You are significantly outnumbered," she stated icily. "I perish for the ascendancy," the attacker hissed. "Indeed, that can be facilitated." The last cloaked figure tried desperately to flee via a floating walkway, but Mason launched a decorative centerpiece with stunning precision, striking the figure squarely in the back. The failed assassin tumbled forward, skidding across the crystalline floor, ultimately halting with their legs suspended over the abyss. Eller lowered her weapon, signifying Phase 5's end. "Are there always this many phases?" Mason queried, dusting glass from his jacket. "Technically, yes. We bypassed 2. Were they the relaxing on a serene beach and avoiding gunfire ones? Phase 10. Post-conflict synthesis. Premature. They stood amidst the gala's wreckage, encircled by moaning foes, flashing lights, and scattered hors d'oeuvres. Elra activated her communicator. "Virene Command, Envoy von Compromise. Conference cleanup and incident reports. Incoming." A garbled voice responded. "Acknowledged. ETA, 8 minutes." Prompting Mason to mutter, 14, optimistically. He approached the prone attacker he'd felled, kneeling by the motionless form. "Ascendant purge, huh? Sounds like a twisted diet and a zealous cult had a baby." Ira joined him, her wrist-mounted interface analyzing the unconscious figure. "Extremists, vine-born rejects, hostile to human alliances, fixated on racial purity and ancestral supremacy. Classic space bigots. Fascists consistently spoil the fun. This isn't the first instance they've singled me out." Mason squinted. "Hold on. You're routinely attacked and neglected to mention it?" "I presumed it was inherently understood, given our closeness." "That's not inherent. That's grounds for immediate dating dismissal." Elra cocked her head. "You're still breathing. I deem that a triumph. Your definition of romance is exceptionally skewed." Before she could retort, a floor panel sprung open nearby with a hiss, and a petite, spherical droid emerged. It possessed 2 radiant red eyes, a multitude of minuscule arms, and a vibrant, synthesized voice. "Salutations. I am Clear, post-conflict hospitality assistant. Seeking tranquility? Perhaps a soothing herbal tea, a restorative compression pillow, or a complimentary memory cleanse?" Mason arched an eyebrow, skeptical. Clear chirped, "I lack humor, yet can emulate sarcasm should you desire." "Simulate." "Bravo! Your disastrous infiltration and near-fatal shared ordeal warrant 2 calming herbal brews and a gift shop voucher." Mason inquired, facing Can. "Can we keep him?" "Negative." "Why?" "He's Virene made. I comprehend their programming." The droid intoned, "Affirmative." "Perfectly benign unless provoked. Caution. Rapid gestures could be viewed as aggressive." Mason inquired, "Surely you possess something with chocolate-esque flavors?" "Assuredly. Our synth choco cubes boast a 50% probability of non-lethality and a compelling 70% chance of satiating that sweet desire. Care to gamble?" Mason demurred. "I'll pass." Finally, remediation teams materialized. Silvery figures brandishing containment beams, scanner drones, and the palpable weariness of undercompensated bureaucrats. Mason watched as they carted away, neutralizing unconscious terrorists while Elra managed the mundane, official statements, data packet relays, and the perpetually captivating craft of evading accountability. He drifted towards the glass walkway's edge, gazing into the churning craythorn clouds below. Hands pocketed, his reflection stared back. Slightly more weathered, subtly more vigilant, Elra approached from behind. "You were almost killed," she remarked, less accusatory, more a clinical assessment. "Almost, weren't you? Your tactics were audacious, spontaneous, unconventional, yet surprisingly effective." She scrutinized him. "Your presence continues to bewilder our adversaries." "Well, I'm an acquired predilection." A beat of silence. The turbulent clouds beneath shifted hues as Krathor's weather manipulators activated. "I've proposed a refinement to our bonding trial agenda," Elra stated. "More ballroom dancing. Mission 8, coordinated operation. Mason's mission, remote outpost, research base, minor political leverage. Yet long-range probes flagged it. Activity implies infiltration. Ascendant purge, maybe? Or worse?" "Something worse," she nodded. "We're off-grid, and this mission isn't sanctioned, right? Operating outside formal jurisdiction? For a diplomat, rules aren't your forte. I prioritize effectiveness." He smiled. "That's practically..." While some faces remained impassive, her eyes held mine a beat longer. "Brace yourself," she warned, pivoting away. "You'll require more than just snazzy suits and ad hoc distractions." "Hey Mason," I called. "Chocolate Phase 6? "Reward calibration," she tossed back, never breaking stride. Mason grinned, palms up. "Now that's a phase I can definitely rally behind." The shuttle journey to the outpost commenced with an unsettling hiss, followed by a placid announcement. "Inertial dampeners are undergoing recalibration to a more robust setting." In this daring environment, Mason, secured tightly, showed the same zeal as someone previously ejected from a zero-G ride. He eyed the controls skeptically. "We're not blasting off into smithereens, are we?" Beside him, engrossed in mission intel on a wrist display, sat Ilara. "Factually, this shuttle's only detonated on ascent thrice. That's thrice too many for my liking." "Then the descent should delight you. It's only gone up in flames twice. Did those stats come with images? I'm a visual learner." Scream in context, the shuttle engines surged, propelling them onward, with a firm nudge upon departure from the orbital station. A subtly moved Mason, on the other hand, felt intensely embraced by physics. They pierced the atmosphere in under a minute. Craythorn's upper skies dissolved into a deeper violet. As the shuttle descended towards the mountainous terrain, the research outpost resembled a squat spider crafted from steel and fortified indifference. The main structure was nestled against a cliffside with antennas, bizarrely resembling bewildered tree limbs and dilapidated landing pads, remnants of a bygone era predating severe budget constraints. "Evoke a sense of desolation," Mason observed. Eller, unconvinced, squinted. "Immaculately pristine. Zero visible corrosion, no environmental decay. A real buzzkill. I was yearning for a chilling haunted lab." "Lingering echoes might still haunt this place," she ventured. "Do they shriek in binary?" "Only the courteous ones." The shuttle landed roughly with a hydraulic groan as they stepped out. The air hinted at ozone and bureaucratic neglect. Towering cliffs watched like disapproving scholars. Mason tightened his borrowed pack straps, surveying the desolate scene. "No greeting committee. Either auspicious or a blatant snare statistically," began Blair. Mason cut him off with a raised finger. "If you utter another sentence involving only exploded 3 times, I'm heading back." They advanced. Airlock Elra initiated the access sequence. The door hissed open with excessive drama. Interior lights flickered sequentially, revealing a corridor, scuffed walls, dormant cameras, and a low hum emanating from deep within. Mason followed. "Okay, textbook abandoned research station. Ominous lighting? Affirmative. Unsettling hum begging for exploration? Triple affirmative. Bad idea all around." Eli advanced, analyzing. "Electromagnetic hum. Source likely sub-level 3 power. Source remains mysterious, so we'll subtly correct the trajectory. Moving away from the hum would be far too conspicuous." We are anything but predictable. Speak for yourself. I unleashed a scream during the elevator ascent last week. They moved through a lab, appearing hurriedly deserted. Data tablets remained inactive. A mug of vibrant blue liquid, partially full, emitted faint wisps of steam on a desk. Mason prodded it. "This concoction's still piping." Gaylor frowned. "Then someone's been present recently, or this liquid bends the very fabric of time, and you are absolutely forbidden from consuming it." "Wasn't planning on consuming it. You were contemplating it. I was merely considering inhaling it." Denied the elevator to the lower levels. The ancient elevator whined in protest as they boarded. The control panel featured only 3 buttons, 2 of which were severely damaged. He depressed the third. The elevator groaned once more. "Absolute worst-case scenario, Mason?" he inquired. "We're trapped and encircled by hostile entities." "Optimum scenario? We unearth answers. No in-between? Like we simply stumble upon a vending machine and return home?" "You possess an undeniable penchant for sustenance. I perform more effectively when satiated." The elevator shuddered to a halt. The doors grated open, revealing inky blackness. The droning hum intensified. Louder now, a subtle tremor resonated through the floor, like something slumbering beneath them. The corridor stretched ahead, illuminated solely by crimson emergency strips, casting an eerie glow along the walls. Ira spearheaded the advance, weapon brandished, while Mason trailed, his flashlight sputtering with the erratic devotion of a frightened chihuahua. They arrived at a bulkhead door equipped with a biometric scanner, appearing recently activated. "Someone breached this access point," Ira declared. "Likely a towering, formidable figure clad in excessive leather. Stand clear." UA bypassed the scanner in mere seconds, because, astonishingly, Xenotech hadn't conceived a defense against rapid, adept tapping. The door sighed open, unveiling a chamber absent from official blueprints. Mason gazed in awe. "That's an intense luminescence." The room throbbed with raw power. Centrally, a cylindrical pod brimmed with fluid, suspending a still humanoid figure. Imposing, masked conduits extended from the base, merging into the walls, fueling a breathtaking matrix of radiant runes and circuits, undeniably neither Vereen nor human design. "Initiated, this is groundbreaking, precursor tech," Mason inquired. "Incredibly ancient? Unbelievably advanced? Intensely foreboding?" Affirmed, "Indeed. This is an artifact containment zone, drastically altered." Mason circled cautiously. "Altered by whom?" As if summoned, a voice sliced through the silence, frigid and acute. "I anticipated your arrival sooner." From the depths, a figure materialized in Voyong, statuesque, cloaked, sporting the infamous chrome half-mask and the Ascendant Purge emblem. Mason stiffened. "You, ankle hug. Victim." The man offered a grim smile. "Your approach lacked finesse, but was certainly effective. I pride myself on inventive disarmament," raised her weapon. "What brings you here?" The masked figure indicated the suspended being unlocking our ancestral inheritance. "This vessel houses the genetic resonance of a precursor envoy. Once fully awakened, it will restore Vine physiology to its pristine state, untouched by Alliance adulteration." Mason gaped. "You intend to transform everyone into ancient alien zealots. That's your scheme." The man's smile broadened. "The ascendancy shall reign, and the Mutt unions will disintegrate," Mason quipped. "You're a riot at gatherings." Elra, unfazed, terminated the connection. He evaded the attack with impossible speed, engaging fail-safe protocols. Alarms blared, bathing the chamber in crimson. The pod groaned and fractured. "I believe you've agitated it," Mason stated, retreating. "Containment failure. Regroup immediately." The pod imploded. The figure within ignited luminous eyes and lunged. Mason pivoted. "Revised strategy. Retreat, then accelerate." "Affirmative," Elra responded, already sprinting. The chamber exploded with raw power. Mason glanced back, startled. "What is it?" Elara questioned, as they dove into the elevator. "It grinned at me," he whispered, just as the doors slid shut. "It grinned at me." The elevator crawled with agonizing slowness. Mason gazed at the ceiling, the escape's hum clashing with the echoing pandemonium from the breached chamber below. He tallied each fading light during their ascent, half anticipating the next to extinguish just before some unimaginable horror shattered the floor. "So," he uttered, primarily to dispel the oppressive silence. "Assessing on a spectrum from mere annoyance to utter cosmic devastation, how would you categorize that escapade?" Elara remained unfazed. "Apocalypse proximate. Fantastic. So nestled between lunch is still on the table and eternal darkness awaits." The elevator shuddered, grinding to a halt at ground level. Its doors grinding open with hesitant groans, as if dreading what emerged from that pod. The corridor was deserted, bathed in the harsh red of emergency lights, punctuated by a throbbing alarm, like a cardiac monitor gone haywire. Mason hustled to keep pace with Elra as they navigated the base, passing labs where equipment convulsed, levitated, or spontaneously reorganized itself alphabetically. A microscope sprouted legs, feebly chasing after them before colliding with a wall and surrendering. "I'm not explicitly calling this place cursed," Mason gasped, "but I'm heavily leaning towards it. The furniture is attempting to unionize." Elra activated her wrist console, broadcasting a priority distress beacon across all frequencies. Silence. Command communications were being jammed. Naturally. Blocking distress signals. It's in the handbook, right after constructing a villainous lair inside a volcano. They gained the hangar. Their shuttle remained where it had been abandoned, largely unscathed, though the rear thrusters emitted an ominous, low hum. As they drew near, a deep, resonant voice reverberated throughout the bay, not from loudspeakers, but from the very atmosphere. "Itself you were explicitly warned not to meddle, Mason," he reprimanded. "Observe. That's generally the prelude to someone being forcefully acquainted with the nearest wall." Elra brandished her weapon, her gaze sweeping the encroaching gloom. "He's assimilated with the host vessel." "Which one?" "The precursor. Fantastic. We're facing a spectral entity with a penchant for merging." The atmosphere warped. The masked figure materialized, hovering above the deck, his garments billowing like ethereal wisps. His eyes blazed with heightened intensity, tendrils of raw power snaking across the bulkheads, contorting the metal with ease. "You?" "There's still a moment to yield," the man in Mason's attire pointed out. "A simple question. Do you ever initiate a conversation with a common greeting?" The entity projected its hand. "You are insignificant, an imperfect race, navigating illusory destinies. The vine must revert to its genesis, the rest purged." "I believe you're mistaking natural progress for universal prejudice," Mason retorted, positioning himself before Ira. Ira, intrigued, inclined her head slightly. "You're shielding me. It's a gesture of gallantry. Archaic and inefficient, admittedly, but I recall it from somewhere and thought it was fitting right now. Energy. Suspended in the air, a tempest poised to unleash its fury. Panels fractured from the walls as shuttle systems flickered wildly. "Backup plan, Mason?" he urged. "Vine escape module located in the auxiliary wing," came the reply. "Short range, unarmed." Unarmed. A recurring motif, isn't it? Once a diplomatic outpost, now haunted by a wrathful precursor supremacist with questionable interior design choices. They bolted forward. The entity emitted a sound beyond language, beyond screams, akin to metal rediscovering the art of lamentation. Energy surged around them. One blast singed past Mason's ear and transformed a nearby terminal into a monument of misfortune. They blasted through a side corridor. As the hangar partially disintegrated, Era activated a blast door to seal it shut behind them. Mason leaned against the wall. "That's going to take weeks to rectify." "If this outpost endures for weeks," she responded, hoisting him up. They navigated labyrinthine service tunnels, pipes sighing, lights stuttering overhead, machinery intoning in digital rhythms. "Did that ceiling just murmur transcend?" Mason inquired. "Do not interact with sentient HVAC," Ayer cautioned. "It emboldens them." Reaching the auxiliary wing, they found a polished escape pod nestled under layers of dust and passive-aggressive warnings. Ayera tore off the cover, initiated the system, and guided Mason inside. As the pod whirred to life, Mason paused. "We're just abandoning that thing? This pod is protected. It'll broadcast our position once we're beyond jamming reach. Backup's coming, Mason. Strapped tight? You truly believe command will assist?" "Nope," she declared. "But I trust you'll raise such hell they can't ignore it." "I'll take that gladly." The pod ejected, its engines screaming. They shot skyward, a desperate metal shard laced with dark humor. Mason glanced back. The outpost diminished, lights danced, and the mountain throbbed, as if a primordial being was awakening. Wake glanced at her console. The jamming field dissipates in 30 seconds. Impeccable. Precisely the margin we need to evade utter annihilation. Mason tilted his head back. "Just to reiterate, clandestine precursor vessel, cosmic cult, attempting a species-wide genetic resurgence. And now we're ensconced in a tin can sans armaments, provisions, or tunes." Ilera remained focused. "I wasn't cognizant that auditory stimulation was vital for your survival." "It's not essential, just intensifies my lamentations," he quipped. A jarring thud echoed. Mason straightened up. "Pray tell, that was mere detritus." "Improbable," she murmured, as the pod's illumination flickered. The console shimmered, spitting sparks as the pod convulsed. Mason gazed upward. "You assured me this was a secure pod." Elra retorted. "I said shielded. What does shielded signify when something is clawing at the hull?" The pod lurched violently. Mason's voice cracked. "That's undeniably more than just knocking." After a chilling pause, Elra stated with unnerving calm, "Brace yourselves for intrusion." Mason groaned. Why must everything end with a bang? The breach, however, defied Mason's grim expectations. He'd envisioned fangs, claws, and a blood-curdling shriek. The deafening roar faded, replaced by an unnerving calm. The escape pod's hatch groaned open, like a soda can slowly crushed. An electric silence filled the space, making Mason's skin crawl. Starlight shimmered, as if awakening from slumber. A figure emerged, serene robes swaying weightlessly. Light cleaved the form, revealing the precursor, radiating fervor. He hovered, an outstretched hand beckoning. His voice bypassed the air, invading Mason's thoughts. There remains a chance to yield. Still clinging to that tired line? Mason retorted, bracing himself against the console. Seriously, get some fresh material. Ada had swiftly brandished her weapon, yet in this cramped area, it served more as a powerful gesture than a strategic advantage. She positioned herself between Mason and the intruder, a staunch bulwark of unwavering resolve and sharp wit. "You're fracturing," she declared to the entity. "This possession is corrupting your mind. You're spewing gibberish. I am transcending. You're malfunctioning. I perceive the cosmic code, the intricate blueprint of existence." "You're ranting deliriously in public," Ada retorted, "utterly uncouth." Mason, now engrossed with the console, his fingers dancing across the screen, exclaimed, "If I can redirect the pod's auxiliary field generator through the containment matrix, I might just level the playing field." "One could potentially ensnare him briefly to initiate ejection," Elra inquired, not glancing back. "Otherwise, we risk transformation into plasma spaghetti. But fear not. My Tuesdays have been more harrowing." The entity extended its arm, unleashing a searing ribbon of pure energy, akin to a memory. Mason evaded, preoccupied with yelling and pounding the console. The pod shuddered, lights flashed erratically, and the air resonated with the moan of misused, awakening ancient tech. A sphere of radiant blue-white energy erupted from the pod's core. Violently seizing the intruder, the entity unleashed a silent scream, not audible, but within their minds. A sound akin to realizing their dreams were fabricated and their mother favored their sibling. The raw, precursor energy began to dissipate. "Almost there, Mason whispered, sweat cascading down his brow as the console crackled beneath his touch. "Just a bit more." The atmosphere crackled with tension, then absolute silence. The intruder vanished, not vanquished, not destroyed, simply gone, ensnared within the digital reverberation. Mason had masterfully manipulated the containment field, conjuring a simulated reality. The air regained its composure, its threat neutralized. Mason collapsed, utterly drained. "I'm swearing off control panels for life." A voice responded, "You utter that every time." The agent lowered her weapon warily. "This time it's absolute. If I even glance at a button, strike me down. You've got 17 buttons just on your pants. I'm incinerating these trousers." The miraculously operational escape pod, after a tense 3-minute hiatus, resumed its trajectory. Mason chimed in, his voice laced with incredulity. "Did we just pull off a victory? I have the distinct feeling we've won, but I can't believe it." The precursor code, while presently fragmented, offers a temporary reprieve, a fleeting window before its integrity crumbles. It buys us time, hopefully, for someone with the authority to rectify this entire predicament, to step in and take charge, assuming they prioritize this crisis. Gazing wistfully at the celestial tapestry shimmering beyond the window, Mason reminisced, "You know, before this monumental ordeal, my most exhilarating assignment was purging a storage facility plagued by rogue food processors. Hilariously, one particular unit had a peculiar penchant for projectile soup attacks." Ira offered a gentle, almost imperceptible smile, touched by his anecdote. "Even now, I still yelp during turbulence. But you also bravely shielded someone from an ancient entity. That's truly remarkable." He chuckled. "Wait, is that a compliment?" She paused. "I'm simply stating a truth gilded with praise." "I knew it. My awesomeness is contagious. You're more like an annoying static shock or dreadful pop tunes. Yet here we are, surviving the apocalypse together. You're probably grateful I was unarmed back then." She glanced at him. "You failed to mention any prior training." "I have none. I was just extraordinarily motivated. Something about being encircled by a dozen plasma whip-wielding lizards. Pure exhilaration floods in." A beat of silence. "Do you still recall my words from then?" she inquired, her tone softening. Mason pondered, tilting his head. "If only I were your husband." Another pause lingered. "I was caught in a whirlwind of heightened emotions and fleeting time," she confessed. "Are you suggesting your attraction was merely fueled by my combat prowess?" "No," she clarified. "It unveiled a truth I'd suppressed." Mason hesitated, then gazed intently at her. Those initially startling ears now felt utterly natural, like gravity itself. Her ever-composed, analytical mind, poised to dissect any pandemonium, and those fleeting glimpses of genuine vulnerability, subtly yet undeniably present. He confessed, "Honestly, if it offers any solace, I suspect I began falling for you the moment you corrected my grammar amidst a raging firefight. As I recall, you were egregiously misusing the word anomaly." I'm still unsure what I misspoke. It was quite endearing. The console alerted me. A vessel was inbound, an allied dreadnought shimmering, absolutely gigantic, and teeming with actual military personnel in full regalia and adhering to strict protocols. I reclined, remarking that someone, it seemed, had heeded the distress beacon. "Do you think they'll buy our story?" Mason queried. "No," I replied, "but we'll relay it regardless." Naturally, the escape pod glided towards the dreadnought's docking bay. "Your systems are finally stabilizing," Mason exhaled, audibly relieved. "So what's the next move?" shot him a glance. "First, we debrief. Then we unearth just how profound the precursor infiltration has become. And afterward, relentless pursuits, colossal detonations, and lingering soup-induced distress. Perhaps his stare lingered a heartbeat more. Whatever unfolds ahead, we confront it as one." Her affirmation resonated instantaneously. Yes, the docking clamps engaged. The hatch emitted a pressurized sigh. Mason adjusted his attire, refined his appearance, and beamed. "Let's regale them with tales of how we salvaged the cosmos employing a field generator, wry wit, and an individual vehemently opposed to genuflection, and united, they advanced into the radiant illumination."